Good evening, and we're live. And this is your Sensei Al Bob. And welcome to our show, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. So we're ready for the live chat. And I just like to tell everyone that this is a show of entertainment, good times, chuckles, and just stuff for everybody, you know? Oh, let's let you look at the trees out there. This is one of the times I like best. I call it Italian light, because when I lived in Italy, the thing I loved, every place has different light, and that's really amazing. And in Italy, there's different places. In the mountains, there's a mountain Italian light. There's Roman Italian light. There's Sicilian Italian light. Spain has the same thing. There's Madrid. Monaco has different light. London has different light. Ireland definitely has different light. And the United States is so fogged by the illusion of materialism's illumination of the strip mall and the truck stop and the fast food emporium that there's just really, I don't even know what to call American light. There used to be, when I was younger, when I was, how old was I when I went my first walkabout? I think I was probably, what are you, about 14, 13 when you're in freshman in high school. I think I was somewhere in there. Being born in February has always been a very interesting thing with school. Sometimes I was the oldest, sometimes I was the youngest. It was interesting. But my first time walking about was, when I just barely got out alive of being in the seminary. And I used to ask my mom, why did you send me to that? Oh, you wanted to go there, she would always say. I said, really? From third grade to eighth grade, I had great friends. Freshman year in high school, I was going to be the dude. In eighth grade, I was the dude. I had girlfriends. I had my own chorus. I had this group of female friends, four of them, that I had been friends with since third grade, right? And then I had my cadre. I had a chorus and a cadre, right? And we had outlasted the bullies, outlasted the cool kids, outlasted all of those different cliques. And they had crashed and burned because they were not based on anything. We were who we were. We weren't trying to be anything. We weren't trying to be the cool kids. We weren't worrying about the bullies picking on us. Because, we were basically out of touch with that reality, right? The group of us, the chorus and the cadre, when we were in grammar school, they never let us play kickball with the rest. So we had to invent our own game. And it was called Four Squares. It was a box broken into four boxes, and each corner there was a half circle. And we had just a rubber ball. And you stood in the half circle to serve and to receive the first thing, and then you had to hit it into the box. If you went outside the box, you lost a point. And if you got more than 4 points, somebody else took your place. There was 6 of the cadre and 4 of the chorus, and we all played this game, and it was guys and girls. Each game started with 2 guys, 2 girls, right? Sometimes the girls were better, and it was all girls, and we were just watching. This was an amazing game, right? 4 squares. And we played that forever. And everyone left us alone. They didn't care. We weren't the cool kids. So we had our own game. And no one even came and watched us. And the bullies got so bored with us because we didn't even affect us. Whatever they said went right over the head, right? Didn't care because we had this group. This, we were all a cadre, right? And and we were all the chorus, and we were all the shock troops. Didn't matter whether we were guys or girls. We were all our relations, and we were all really different. Harvey Kleiman, Buzzy, Vincent, J.P. Hoagland, Matty Law. Matty Law was the one black kid in our town. His father was an accountant, and there wasn't an accountant in that town, and Matty's dad was it. You know, Mikey, his dad was the guy who took the numbers. The guy who you gave money if you wanted to bet on something. Vincent's dad had a business that he worked in New York, where he got things when boats came in and they needed boxes of toilet paper or filters or this. He would get them their stuff, right? And Buzzy's dad was a phone man, a long lines guy. And Harvey Kleiman, his daddy was a rocket scientist. He worked on, the UNIVAC. And JP's dad was in construction. And Hoagland's dad was a policeman. And you couldn't have had a more, and everybody was of different races, colors. We were like the salad bowl, like where I grew up as a very young child. And we were all really different. We weren't all the same, Italians and Jews and Irish and blacks and Sephardics and you name it, we were it. And the same with the girls, One was Italian, one was Irish, one was Protestant, blue blood. You couldn't get any more blue blood, And Virginia, what was her name? And Lisa, and Kim Romano, good Italian girl. But her mother was Norwegian. So she was like blonde and whoa, And so we were this group that was, we were no fear. We feared nothing. Because we all knew ourselves. And our friendship amongst each other, we never played each other. We never made fun of each other. We pushed each other to do our best. And over the years, most of them I've kept in, this is people I knew from the third grade. When I was, how old was I in the third grade? 7, 8? Hey there, Ride. Merry-go-round. Send our consciousness free will. Thanks, Sal. Yep. Turn around. Never turn your back on anyone. Always face them, right? Whatever angers us, whatever fear, whatever hate we have, it comes from the fact that we don't know ourselves. When you know yourself, you do not let the ambient, unimportant things affect you because they're not real. They're illusions, right? Whatever you might feel anxious about. I mean, there's tons of stuff that, flows in. I have diabetic eyes and I have these things called floaters. Now I get this big needle stuck in my eyes every 60 to 90 days, and it changes the protein, and it changes the thing in the back of my eye that the diabetes attacks. And normally this thing just, makes it so you can see. Hey, fish. And it's healing my eyes. It's not supposed to, but it is. And so when I first, was really, really sick, I could barely see. The floaters were everywhere, black spots everywhere. Now I don't really have that. A little bit, once in a while, towards as it gets, the end of the 90 days, I may have a black spot or two. But, really only if I look in a certain way, right? And that black spot really represents, when you want to know where the boogeyman is, he is right at the edge of your peripheral view. When, you're watching TV or at night or something, you're in a room and you kind of see a shadow character, and then you look at it, it goes away. Whenever you look at something straight on, it goes away. Whatever you fear and you look at it straight on, it goes away. And so, pretty much all of my diabetes, my Charcot legs, my all the things wrong with me that were brought on by the 10 years of living in a swimming pool of chocolate mousse and weighing 500 pounds, it has kind of been the metaphor for the things that I wasn't looking at. What do you mean I'm scaring you? Come on. Well, hey, your griot tells you a story. If it scares you, that's good because it brings forth the thing you should be looking at, you know. So my grandma brought me up until I was 7, and then I was brought back to my family. And, it was like, going to live with a pack of feral wolves. I remember when I was there no more than 2 weeks, my father looked at me and said, "Who are you? We don't know you. You don't belong here." And you know what when your father would say, "Who are you? We don't know you. You're not one of us. You don't belong here." That's like one of the things that should shatter your ego, should shatter your id, right? But me, I was like, maybe he's right, because I was really belonging with my grandma and everyone in my neighborhood that I was hanging out in the salad bowl with. Well, these people were all about themselves, jealous, angry. My mom would just, forget about. My grandma made food for me and for those who would dine with us as an art form, sharing her love. Everything she made was with love. My mom took shit out of the freezer, throw it in boiling water, and then just threw it on the table. And we all kind of, and me, that's not how I was brought up. I was kind of, there would be no food. It's like everyone, right? So pretty early on, I was scared to get out of bed when I had to go take a pee. Well, when I was at my grandma's house, it's not so much. I could, I lived in a place that, oh, you grew up in Hong Kong? Oh, that must have been terrible. No, it was great. Everyone cared. We had no police because we had no need to have police. Grandmas ruled everything, right? Not so much anymore. Anyway, so when I was having issues with trying to fit in with my family, my grandma came and took me back to her place, right? And we had a tradition where we would go to the movies at least once a week. My grandma loved the movies because she said it was the 20th century version of great literature. She was right. And so, every movie we'd say, "Oh, that's based on this book," and then we'd read that book together. And this was part of her way of being the griot to teaching her grandson what was important, what was right, what was culture, what was, the things that I should be focusing on and not, kvetching on wanting that new toy or that new this or being worried about what somebody thought about me. No, you know. Anyway, so we went and saw this movie called Forbidden Planet. I think it was 1957, somewhere around there, maybe 56. And it was, Shakespeare's a tale of Shakespeare, and Shakespeare got it from the Greeks, right? And it was the story of this guy, Percival, who was the great magician, and the king, he was scared of him because he was way smarter than the king. So the king didn't want to kill him because he knew he might need him. So he put him on an island where he was all by himself. Couldn't do any harm. He had everything he needed. Everything was comfy. And if the king needed him, he'd come and get him. Right. Well, he got lonely. So he made genetically, creatures, Kamare, right? And that he made his best friend Enkidu. And this is just like, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein got this from Shakespeare because the monster was more human. Has anyone read Mary Shelley's Shakespeare rather than see the movie? Because every movie gets it wrong. Because, first of all, Mary Shelley never called the monster monster, called it the creature. And the story was more of being a bad parent. The real monster of Frankenstein was Dr. Frankenstein. They don't call, Shelley didn't call it the monster. She called it Frankenstein because Frankenstein was the monster because he was like a badass, terrible father. Creates this creature and then throws him out on the street, Doesn't give him love, doesn't teach him anything, right? And the monster becomes the more human. And Shakespeare, Enkidu becomes more human, right? And teaches Percival to be what humans are about. And so in the movie Forbidden Planet, Morbius, Earth scientist, comes there and they find this, ancient civilization that called the Krell that did itself in 1,000,000 years ago. But before then had traveled the universe. And so when they find it, there's creatures, the lions and tigers and bears are all on this planet light years away. And so this Earth here ship comes to check up on these guys, and they land. And Morbius, says, "Don't, leave." And they said, "No, we got some things that are broken, and we need to fix this and that." And the guy says, "Well, I don't care. Get out." And he goes, "Well, then we'll have to call back home, and the whole Navy will show up. If you just help us fix our shit, we'll leave." So they go and visit Morbius, and Morbius gives them a little tour of why they shouldn't be there, shows them this great civilization that won't exist, and then one night, they get wiped out. Bottom line. And so this monster starts, they're staying there, and they're corrupting his daughter. The only other creature other than the robot is Altair, his daughter, right? And she's never seen a guy. So she is totally naive. She's innocent. She's like Orwell's Savage, right? So, and she's starting to realize what, being a woman, a girl, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so she kind of falls in love with the captain, and the monster comes and attacks these guys, because Morbius, you don't really know the connection between Morbius and the monster, but it re-rises. It hasn't been around since the monster wiped everyone out except Morbius and his wife, and then the wife has the kid, and the wife dies in childbirth. And anyway, for 20 years or 18 years, monster hasn't been around, and now the boys show up, and the monster shows up. So we watch this. The movie theater that we go to is RKA movie theater. It's got seats for 500. It's like the movie theater from the 1950s, where they didn't have it broken up into little theaters. No, and they didn't show 19 movies at once. They just had one big movie, right? And so, we would go during the matinees on Wednesday. Nobody'd be there. And so we could have any seat we wanted, right? And my grandma knew which seat to sit in to get the best, whatever movie it was, a Western or this or that. But for this movie, she sits me up in the front row where I'm watching the movie like this, right? And part of our tradition is after the movie, we go to Schraff's to have a sundae. So my neck is killing me from looking at the movie like this. And, Grandma goes, "So what'd you think of the movie?" And I go, "Grandma, why'd you have me sit in the front? Oh, my neck is killing me." She goes, "Well, what'd you see in the movie sitting up there?" And I said, "Well, I could see everything. The mystery of the movie wasn't there. I could see all its foibles." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean by that?" She goes, "Well," I said, that movie, and this is like, I am 7. I said, "Well, that movie says it was in cinema, that was 70 millimeters each frame, right?" And I knew what a millimeter was, right? She taught me the European system of measurements. Anyway, so I knew what a millimeter was, and I said, the monster was etched on the frame, and I could see that it was just a scratchy thing, right? And she goes, "That's right." And she goes, "That's exactly why you are wetting your bed." And I go, "What do you mean?" I says, "Well, because," she goes, "because you're scared." And where was the monster coming from? And the monster was coming from the id, the savage unconscious, the bridge that we take from our library of our Akashic record to our, sanctuary of our own choosing. That's the id. That's the line. That's the bridge, right? And so, because I was like just dropped into my family, and all this shit was happening to me, and I was consciously aware of it, so I wasn't like getting upset and crying right then and there. But when I went to sleep and I'd wake up from, still in my dream state, my id, my monsters from the id were there. And so my grandma said, "So that's exactly why you can't get out of bed and take a piss." Man, you could take a piss, as soon as you were 2 years old, you were using the toilet, right? So I'm going, "Oh, look at it." So we go back after Shrast because we still have our ticket stubs, and we see the next show at, at whenever it was, 5 o'clock. And we sit in the back. So we get the real good son. "Oh, wow, that monster looks alive." And she goes, "See, from back here, the monster looks real. But it's just scraped on the 70 millimeters. You don't have to be scared of that. From now on, that's how you frame everything you see, that it's an illusion." This is my grandma telling me this. This little Italian lady had no education, but when she came over on the boat and met my grandfather, married, she lived in a place that had tons of books. Even though she didn't know how to read, she told herself, "I'm going to learn how to read. I'm going to read all these books." But she did. And then they kind of moved out of that and got their own place. And then they got, their place out in Long Island, where my father grew up. So that's what I saw, right? It was pretty amazing. And from that moment on, from 7 years old, I was no longer scared of anything. Now, I have seen things that would scare the crap out of most people. I've seen dimensionals, I've seen extraterrestrials, I've seen really vicious things. I've seen violence, I've seen war zones, I've seen, people like Hannibal Lecter. When I worked in jails and mental institutions, I've seen a lot of, and then when I worked in hospitals where they're supposed to be healing the sick, I saw the hospitals treating the people like vegetables, just making money off them. This Christmas, I went into a hospital with a church group, and the church group had permission to go and bring presents and hand out Jesus to the inmates of this Christian hospital. And the Christian hospital was a Christian hospital for rich people. I mean, they had the best service, the best, right? You know what this is? It is Eye of Horus. It's the big lie. And everyone in that hospital, there were 172 inmates there, and these were all rich people, and they were being kept there against their will. And they were being kept alive in misery so their families could milk their wealth. Each one of them really didn't want to give any money to their family because they were such scum, and they were going to give their money away to something that they wanted to. Then they got sick, and the power of attorney was one of the children, and their children kept this hospital was to keep these people alive. And there was one guy I went into that nobody went in to see because he was horrific. And he had, gout and gangrene, and he had it for 5 years. And they had just been chopping him up. And when I went to see him, he had no legs and no arms. He had no, his legs were cut to his hips. His arms were cut above his elbows. So he just had, he could flail a little bit. And he had bed sore. He had been in bed for 5 years. And his whole internal system was totally out of whack. And so he had pipes in him. He had ileostomy, meaning where they just put a bag. He didn't shit in a toilet, shit in a bag. He had a catheter. He had a catheter for 5 years. Ileostomy for, 5 years. He was hooked up to a machine. His kidneys were gone, and he was on a bed of air because if he lied on the bed, his skin would slough off. This guy smelled unbelievably bad. He looked even worse, and he had nobody to come see him. His nurses would come in and treat him like he was a radish in a basket. And I went and spent 2 hours with him and listened to him. He could still talk. He could still hear. He could still think. It's just like the character out of Johnny Got His Gun, which is a true story. That's why that book was illegal in the United States. Go find that book, Johnny Got His Gun. It's about a guy who gets blown up in World War I. He's got nothing except his torso, his head, and he can't hear and he can't see and he can't speak. He's got no arms, he's got no legs. And they think he's dead, and they're just keeping him alive for an experiment. And yet his brain is still working. And his nurse, who's taking care of him, she learned the Morse code because her father was a radio guy. And so this guy was a radio guy, and he's tapping Morse code with the back of his head on the bed. And she's realizing. So she taps, and he goes, and they start having a conversation. And she actually falls in love with him. And then she goes to the people in charge and says, hey, this guy is, he's not brain dead. He's totally there. And she brings, shows him that, he's tapping out Morse code. And I go, And so they put her in jail because she wants to help him. And they use the fact that he can, he's actually there. The Tavistock boys, the mind control guys, come in and start playing with his brain. And that's a true story. Johnny Got His Gun. Go get that. So here is a real life experience right there, And so I went and talked to him. I went into the head person's office and said, all of these people just want to go home and die. And they're telling me that they're being kept here alive because their families, and they, this guy got very upset with me. He says, how dare you, da 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 da. And so they went back to the people I was, with and said, get rid of this guy. So I couldn't go back. Because it was fine that we went in there for one day, the day before Christmas. But I went back 2, 3, 4 times and talked to everybody, right? Spent hours there, listening to their stories, letting them cry on my shoulders. That guy was the worst off. Nobody wanted to see him, right? Talk about scary monsters. We're the worst, And that was the story, Shakespeare's story. Enkidu was more human. Frankenstein, the creature was more human, And in Forbidden Planet, the robot was more human, right? So I learned that you don't, you have to realize what you're looking at. And most of the fear that we fear comes from ourselves, from the fact we don't understand who we are. We want to have abs. We want to wear the best clothes. We want to have a car. We want to have this. Well, how am I going to pay my bills? What are we going to do? Right now, I actually have $9 to my name. If I do not get $35 in the next, by Friday, that'll be the last you'll hear from me, because that's when they will turn off my phone. And I've already misplaced my, PIN number for this. The only real way is this phone not going down. And I've asked John for $35. He's got thousands. And when I told him what it was for, there's a good chance that he would let my phone go down, so I can't do this because he sometimes feels threatened by the fact that I do this. Now, he'd want me to do it 100% on his channel, so people would come to his channel, and he would make the money. I don't even make money on this, you know. I think you have to get over 1,000 cadre before. Okay, good. You're right. You're right. You're right. When you're right, you're right. Thank you for telling me that. See? It's like when my phone died a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't that the phone died, it was that the Wi-Fi here didn't work. Thank you for okay, see, okay, you'll see me. And I can still go on Gmail. Well, this is great. Okay. See? There you go. Yeah, exactly. I can let my phone die and I couldn't give a fuck if people can call me or I can call out, you know? And they'll just have to get a hold of me at Gmail. So that's, the bottom line. Anyway, where was I going with the story? Oh, yes. Know thyself. Don't worry about what others say, right? And, so I've been, what have I been writing here in my, so the meaning to our lives. What is the meaning to our life, right? It isn't it's not other people's opinion of us, right? It's not what we think we want. It's how it is the bottom line. I mean, the only thing that makes me happy is when I make others happy. The only true thing, I believe in nothing. What I do have is faith in love's co-creation because it always comes through, you know? It always works out. I'm not worrying about it. So, John, we're going to take this road trip on the road, right? And we're going to maybe go Friday. But, I have no knowledge of really what's going to happen, right? And so, I have to get a contract with John because I have to sign him to, make sure that he doesn't have anxiety in the middle of New Jersey and throw me out of the car, right? He has to sign on that he will, not put my life in jeopardy on this little journey. And the real deal, I want to take John on this thing because I've been telling him, okay, so the reason we're going, I mean, if you watch today's earlier show, I give, hey, we're going to do this and this is what we're going to do. And basically, we're going on a road trip to find the real John Birmingham. Not the anxious, not the fearful, not the little child, not the bully, not the strong man, but the real person. And so that'll be interesting for me. And I think it'll be and I'm making him bring his guitar. So as we drive around and do stuff, he can sing songs. And I'm going to make him, not make up, some of his songs are just, I want him to go into who he is, not, him picking on the other, right? Not being the vegan, not being the, bully Republican, not being this, not being that, but being who he really is, Because if I can get him to connect with who he really is, he might break the chain of events, where he's had his anchor stuck and he has gone around and around. It's just like when you see a poor dog chained to a tree, with a chain and a choke collar, and the dog's trying to get away and just, pretty much John's whole life. And hopefully this little adventure might, untangle the chain. And if I can do that, I'll be a happy guy, right? So anyway, so that's the main reason we're going on this road trip, right? And it's going to be spring, and the next 10 or so days supposed to be beautiful. So I'm gonna go there. So that's the story of that. Right. So it's going to be interesting. And it's a good thing to do. Like I said, what makes me happy is when I can make others happy. And if I can get John to break this chain, it'll be one of the better things I've done in the last few years. Anyway, so that's that. But what are we doing tonight? We're going to have a guided meditation. And where we're going to, you know, I think the biggest lie that we have, people go on about the Illuminati. That's just a poster. It's the hidden hand. It's, the powers that shouldn't be the sock puppet. It's the pyramid scale of 95% of the human race are what the owners call the expendables, right? Then they're the worker drones. Now, the worker drones aren't like the people working in factories or, at the fast food store or doing any kind of anything like that. No, those are the expendables. The worker drones are the lawyers, the judges, the doctors, the bankers. Those are the worker drones, right? And the people of that ilk, people who think they're rich, the people who think they are, in charge. No, they're the worker drones. Then there's the manager class. Now, the manager class, you'd think, oh, that's the lawyer's doctor. No. Manager class are like the Bill Gateses, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, that crew, right? The billionaires. That's the manager class. They aren't in charge. They aren't the owners. They don't own squat. What they don't know is that they are as expendable as the expendable. In a lot of ways, more expendable, right? Even though we have our bolt hole underground. We got our underground city. Well, I've been down in those things, and man, I would not want to live in those things. I mean, I was in a really, high-end one, and you could still smell the shit. Shit goes downhill. Where does the shit go when you live 900 feet underground? Well, they turn it into your drinking water and into the food you're eating. That Mars bar is really a turd. No, I don't think I'd want to live down there. So, this whole scam is just that. The owner class are those, dimensionals, those, the reptilians, the tall Nordics, the, insectoids, which are really nasty dudes. You don't want to be found in a dead end with a insectoid. All of the, there are about 12. And they made us. Well, they didn't make us, per se. Didn't make our conscious free will, our soul, no. Love's co-creation made that. But our avatar, our mud puppet, they made that. And they incarcerated us in that. And that's what the movie The Matrix about, because you realize at the end of the third movie that the guys who were down there in Valhalla underground in whatever they call that city, who they thought they were free, they took the blue pill or the red pill, whichever one allegedly woke you up, as a bald guy in a swimming pool of Vaseline. No. That's still the avatar. Their strings were still being pulled. And even the friggin', at the end of the third movie, when the architect and the oracle were sitting on the park bench watching the sun rise through the clouds of toxic gases, smoking a cigarette and eating a cookie, You could tell that those guys, were banging boots the whole three movies, right? And it's just like Babylon 5. You have the Vorlon and the shadows, and then you had the elders who were still around but didn't want to be bothered, right? And then there were the guys on the rim, shooting hoops. And that's kind of where it's at. You got to watch all this stuff, put it all together, just like I was sitting in the movie theater, sitting in the front row, watching the monster be scratched on the 70 millimeter frame. So tonight, here it is. Look at that, 40 minutes and 40 seconds. So tonight, our little guided meditation is we're going to go to the rim. We're going to go and see all of this. And not only that, we're going to do it in your avatar. Yes, you're going to, go get yourself seated, go lie down. Yes, we're going to go into state, but we're going to go into your everyday in every way. And I'm going to show you those little shadows just on your peripheral vision. So from now on, you're going to see these monsters for who and what they are. And you're not going to be able to pretend that you're not seeing them. You're going to see 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 them. So, sounds like fun, doesn't it? Because after this little jaunt, you're not going to be scared of anything. You better put on some diapers or wrap yourself in a blanket because you might mess yourself. Okay? Ready for this? This should be entertaining. This should be fun. And remember, Dreamy Dreamland is just for the entertainment's sake. This is all just for fun and giggles. So get yourself comfy, kids. Welcome aboard. Okay. Okay. Hi, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Okay, I want everyone to put themselves in a comfortable and safe position, in a chair, in a bed, on the floor, someplace where you can't fall down and hurt yourself, right? And you've put out the cat, you put the kids to bed. Remember, this is an adult show. This is not for the weak at heart, And so, I want everyone to start breathing deeply. Breathe in that 20%. Breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in, and then out. Out, 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 out. And breathe it in. And when you breathe out that 30%, it makes it that much easier to breathe in that 20%. And once you do it at least 3 or 4 times in a row, meaning the breath, not going into state, basically what happens is your diaphragm lifts, which allows your lungs to expand much easier. So I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And as I do, you're going to go into a deep, deep, deep state of conscious relaxation, meaning your conscious mind will relax. Your conscious mind, to breathe this 20% in and the 30% out, your conscious mind will have to focus 1,000% on your breath. Because really, your autonomic system breathes fine for you, but not really. You're really not breathing. Everyone breathes too shallowly. Ergo, they hold the toxins in their body longer than they should, and that's why they get ill. If everyone were to breathe deeply and excel, that 30% at least 5 to 10 times a day, meaning go into state 5 or 10 times a day, you would live an extra 40 years in better health. And you will automatically lose weight, hold muscle tone, and, not get sick, you know, because what is disease but being diseased, being out of the state of ease? And what is the state of ease? Being awake, you know? Buddha's side of the road, kind of in a luminescent glow. A traveler sees this and goes over to him and goes, "Excuse me, are you God?" And Buddha kind of looks at him and goes, "No." What are you, a magician? What are you? And Buddha goes, "No." What are you? And Buddha replies, "I am awake." And the fact that Buddha was awake was, the realization that he was a ascended master, right? Just like Jesus, ascended master. Just like Vishnu, ascended master. And there are other ascended masters that have been, Saint Germain is ascended master. Now there are different levels of ascended masters, just like in angel law. There's all these different angels, right? So, and we are all children. We are all children of love's co-creation. And when I say all, I mean everybody. Lucifer is a child of love's co-creation. You know, all the demons, all the dimensionals, all the everybody who's really nasty, they are children. They're all our relations. And that's why this universe is a mechanism. And you look at the yin-yang symbol, that circle, that is the event horizon of the sending box, meaning we are inside the event horizon. Outside is love's co-creation. The darkness is all out there, right? And so there's this little SE curve thing. Well, that's the path of life. One side is light, all white, and the other side is black. And what is black? But black is made up of every frequency of luminescence there is. You put them all together, red, green, everything, infrared, microwave, gamma, all those wavelengths make black. What is light? Light is the energy of Lucifer's impetuous anger that broke heaven's hegemony. The crash of breaking heaven was the Big Bang, and that's that light. And that Big Bang was all in one, less than a blink of an eye, less than a nanosecond, less than a smallest, if you kept cutting the fraction in half, all the way down, that's what the Big Bang was. So the Alpha and the Omega is basically happened in one thing, And that's why there is no linear time. But within the event horizon of the yin-yang, there is linear time, because we have all the time in the event horizon to experience what we need to experience to understand that we are love's co-creation through our conscious free will. And that's why we go through all of this. If our life was only one life, if it, and it is just a blink of an eye, then there would be no love. There would be no co-creation. There would only be the worst of the worst. And the worst of the worst doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It is a tool. It's just like a hammer. That hammer can build a house or knock you in the head, right? So our experience in the yin-yang, right? So we're in the darkness, we're in the light, and in the darkness is this one little dot of light, and in the light there's this one little dot of blackness. And what is that but chaos? And that's why our whole universe is chaotic in the most harmonic way. And everything is a frequency, right? And that's why when we go into state, and you've been breathing now, that 20% in and that 30% out, and you are going into state, and it's one, and you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is now totally, totally focused on your breath, and that squirrel that you think is your mind in the metal cage of the Rolodex of your brain. Your brain isn't where your soul is. It's just a Rolodex of facts that you forget most of it, right? And your little squirrel just keeps rolling around thinking about this, that, and the other thing that has no real semblance to why you are here or what you're doing here or who you are. You are not that little squirrel in that metal cage. Now, you act it when you are the mud puppet, when you act totally on your hormonal chemical urges of fear and anxiety and hormonal needs of gorging yourself on whatever. And, I've been there. I'm not saying I weighed 500 pounds. That's a lot of gorging on whatever, you know. And, I had many relationships in my life and I let them slip away. Now, I was blessed enough to experience them extremely deep and appreciate them and have the grace of understanding them and still keeping them as friends for all these years. But there were many women in my life that I could have married, that I should have married. Now, I'd be somebody totally different. I'd have kids, I'd be rich, I'd be living on a yacht someplace. I wouldn't be your Sensei Al Bob, your griot. I'd be something else. But that would be a parallel universe. That's what deja vu is. You're going down the railroad tracks of your life. You seem to be going in a certain direction at a certain speed, a certain thing, and all of a sudden you get this feeling. And what's going on is someone has switched the switch of the tracks. And one of your legs is going on one track and the other one is keep going straight. And whichever one has the strongest pull will snap that leg one way or the other. You'll either go into that direction of where the switch was pushed and you're now going in a whole new direction, or you'll snap back. And most people who got their anchor dropped and they're going in a circle, that's the one track that's really hard to break. When you're stuck in that circle, in that repetitive path over and over and over again. And one of the reasons why I kind of would be in something that was like, whoa, this is really good, this but I didn't want to get stuck, so I snapped out of it until I got to an age around 60 that I realized snapping out of going in a new direction, finding something interesting, learning something more, getting deeper into who I am. I got to that point where I realized, you know what, I've always been this guy. And I could have gone in any of those directions. And some of them were pretty amazing. Some of the people in my life were, if I had stayed on that path, I'd have a big career. Well, I've had a big career. I've had 20 big careers. I could have stuck on any one of them. I could have been a shrink and had a great practice and helped a lot of people. And people would be calling me doctor. Well, people still call me the doctor. Because that was my nickname for a good 20 years. When I was out in Long Island in Brookhaven, people called me doctor because everybody else out there was a doctor, And in a lot of ways, I seemed to have more authority than the guys that had PhDs because I did not have any fear to stick me. Oh, I can't do that. That's outside, I would go and do whatever, And that's why I was allowed to do whatever. But at a certain point, I got to a place where, the hidden hand and the power said, you're one of us. You need to sign on here. You need to be read into this. We need you. I said, nope, see you later. Bye. And and they couldn't, Now, the really people at the top of the heap would go, yeah, well, that's Hal. We just have to let him go do that. And that's why I'm still alive. I haven't gotten a bullet because everyone knew I was not the hero. For the last good 48 years of my life, when I started, Doctor Do No Harm, once was actually being a healer, I picked that one up. And then, I became, working in people's minds. That's when I said, okay, I can't, not only can I not do any harm, I'm not going in there unless I can have a positive outcome that does innocence, where I'm going to protect the innocents and get them out of harm's way. And my third rule, by me learning it, I will help others. So those three rules have really been, my raison d'etre and meaning to life. And it has brought me to where I am right now. Your sensei, Al Bob, your griot of the cadre, bringing you into your house, the Oracle of Delphi. That's our house. That's your house forever. It has been your house, will always be your house. And the cadre will always say, in every day and every way, I take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. So say we all. Now, coming from that place, you're going to see some scary things. I'm going to take you into a place. But by showing you this, I'm going to give you another tool that I hope you exercise yourself. I have the patience of Job, and I will never abandon you. I will always be here for you. Even when I go to the other side, I will still be here for you because my masters are always got my back. My guides always have my back. My guardian angel, Gabriel, when he came to me in physical form as a cabbie, and we went up to my loft in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and he brought a gigantic carafe of the wine Jesus made at that wedding, which was pretty good stuff. Think of anything that you've ever taken, every booze, any drug, anything you've ever, any herb, any whatever you've ever pushed the envelope of your consciousness. This wine was it. And it took me places. And again, if you read, xratted.blogspot, that story is there, right? And again, I have 26 novels written. Each have somewhere between 6 and 10 different cuts. So that's, let's say, 10 times 26. That's 260 stories within novel form. And I am at present writing another 6 novels. And I have about, somewhere between 50 and 80 separate short stories that stand alone. These novels are all different stories, but they weave together as a novel. And the novel that you can read that has 6 cuts, the last 2 cuts or 4 cuts that end the thing, the other, quarter of the novel, you get to read 3/4 of the novel. The other quarter is not printed because I want to know that you understand the first 6 cuts before you get to read the end of the story. And that's going to take, just can't breeze through it. My writing is a shamanic metaphor of a mystery of a code. And that's what the Hebrew Torah is, right? And that's what inspires my writing, right? As a good friend of mine who was a well-known publisher and editor, he loves reading my stuff, and he says it's like reading James Joyce on acid. And I find that as a great compliment. And What did James Joyce say of himself? He said, I am proud to be known as a cut and paste man. Well, that's me. Anyway, because when Joyce wrote his first, I think it was The Dubliners, and he got it published, the highbrow critics called him a cut and paste man, because he had all these metaphors of everybody else's stuff that he wrote in his own coded metaphor and put in there. So if you just read it, you'd say, "Oh yeah, that's Chaucer. Oh yeah, that's Shakespeare. Oh yeah, that's Oedipus. Oh yeah, But he took those stories, twisted them sideways, put them upside down, put them in another dimension, then wrote his thing and put it out there. And that's, again, I humble myself as to be the the adept of these people, their student. Just as you are my students, you are my adepts. That's what a student is. That's what an adept is, a student. And all, a sensei is a teacher, a shamanic teacher. An adept is a shamanic student. And you are, coming to the well, right? Just like Sophocles. He was a griot. He told stories, to Alexander and his buddies for a good 15 years and made him the man you know, Alexander did not conquer the world by himself. He did it with his cadre. He had that cadre from when he was a little boy. Yes, he was the prince, and yes, they were sons of generals and rich people and other scholars, and that was his cadre. And they were all adepts of Sophocles, you know? Now, some people used to call me Sock, and that was nice of them. And these are all, my nicknames have always been endearments, right? Not making fun, but endearments. And that's why, and most people's nicknames come out of being made fun of and then turn into endearments. Mine have always been given to me. I didn't pick them. The name Owl. You don't pick, oh, my name's Al. No, it has to be given to you. I lived with a number of indigenous people, first peoples, people who were there before anyone else showed up. And I lived with them in their way, honoring their way, not my way, not me saying, oh, look, I'm better. No, I learned their way and humbly, I gathered the wood. I picked the berries, I did the chores, I was the fire keeper, the stone keeper, the gate watcher, the vibes watcher, I was the scribe, I was the facilitator, and I did all of that with grace and humility that I gathered from my teachers. And that is what I am laying down for you all by my example. Now, I'm a human being. I have my foibles, and that's part of the problem children have with their parents, is that, early on, they view their parents as perfect, as gods, as, that. And then as they live, grow, they realize how, their parents have feet of clay. And so they get disappointed and they feel let down because their parents aren't perfect. And luckily for me, I was taken away from my family early on, like at birth, and didn't come back till I was 7. And I was, my grandma was, grandmas are the best. They've already made all the mistakes, so they are, and they're too old to worry about shit. They just realize that you're going to make your mistakes, and the best thing they can do is keep you away from the chainsaws and lead by example. Do their best. and constantly tell the child, listen, I'm not perfect, I'm not the best. I want you to tell me, not no, but how you feel. You know? Not no, I'm not going to do this because you're telling me, but how you feel about what I'm telling you. And that's how the child learns. Now, in our culture, our fractured, dystopian, you know, separated society, culture, that's why we are all diseased. Right? So tonight's guided meditation is about how to not be separated, how not to be stuck in belief, how to suspend your your belief, how to disbelieve all that you're told, so you can be free to know thyself and realize your life is a journey and not a thing to get to, not to arrive at a final destination. Your life is not a final destination, especially your material life. You're not escaping the event horizon until all our relations come together and are set free of the illusion. The only way we're getting out of this event horizon is to burst the bubble that keeps the event horizon magnetized. So, one of the things we have to learn is the secret of attraction and attracting what doesn't make us diseased. We will attract what makes us eased, what makes us awake to our conscious free will, not our selfish free will, because that free will isn't free. That's just willful ignorance. Willful ignorance. You know. So one, your conscious mind is totally asleep. And you're breathing that 20% in, and you're breathing in that prana, and that prana is going into your lungs, and your lungs have been expanding 20% more, allowing your diaphragm to raise, to open up your lungs, so all those little cilia can actually metabolize the prana into your blood. As the blood comes through your lungs and you expel all the waste products, your lungs give off, evacuate, more toxins than your urine, than your crap, than your sweat, than any other form of getting rid of toxins. You expel close to 20,000 cubic feet of volume of your lung capacity every day. And if you breathe that 20% in and that 30% out about 10 times a day, you will increase your ability to process waste and bring in the healing prana, which gets flowed through your body, through your blood, your iron-rich blood. And it's what does iron do but carry current? And as the prana rich blood goes through your veins, through the arteries, the capillaries, and the other cardiovascular system, it swirls, and it swirls clockwise against the wall out of your cardiovascular system. And inside that swirl, there's another swirl going counterclockwise. And inside of that swirl, there's another swirl going clockwise at a 90-degree angle. And what is that doing but creating a current of alternating current of scalar harmony. And as that blood flows through your body and goes to every cell, your mitochondria is vibrated by that scalar harmony, and it vibrates to the point where it creates photonic light. And that light is love's purest form of co-creation. That's the energy of co-creation. And that photonically created by your cellular self being connected to your chi, which is the grounding to Mother Earth, Gaia. And in that process, you'll see, I want you to see right now, you're looking inside yourself, you're seeing the flow of a current, you see every cell of your body separating in mitosis. And around that process, your mitochondria, it looks like little lightning bolts. Well, that's what causes a mitosis, the separation of the cell. And it causes the duplication of the DNA and the RNA, which makes, the cells of your body. And when you are in a diseased fashion through taxation of emotion and taxation of the environment, that's where you get diseased. That's where you get cancer. That's where you get flu. That's where you get pneumonia. That's where you get everything wrong with your body, with your avatar. And part of the design thing, now, spiritually, your avatar is just that, a vehicle, a bag of water that holds your soul, your consciousness of your free will, your conscious free will. But because of that disease, you are put into a belief structure where you can't contact that form of being awake, that clarity of your conscious free will. You can't ascend. You get stuck in the muck and mire of the lower chakras. You can't step up to your higher chakras. And now we are going into the Aquarian age. We are no longer in the Piscean age. We're pulling into and are in the Aquarian age, which gives us that boost to be able to raise through our chakras. And when we go into state, when we go into our Akashic record, that is the tool. I am giving you all of the physical, spiritual, shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemical tools to heal yourself. And then heal others through your example by being awake. Now, your consciousness has been in this event horizon for, 16 billion years, which is nothing compared to eternity. 16 billion years is not eternity. It's a blink of an eye, right? Now, the people we're going to go visit tonight in our little guided meditation are a number of creatures out there that have created physically in the illusionary field of this universe, our avatar. They basically own us. And they use us like a ever-ready battery, That's why we run around like a bunny, like a squirrel in a cage. But this little journey, for all of you who are going along for the ride, you're going, and who practice this, are going to, this is a step, an evolutionary step, right? And that's why I've taken the long way around. We haven't even gotten to 2 yet, We're still at 1. And your conscious mind is now totally focused on your breath. Has nothing to do. Your squirrel's asleep in that cage. And all of your diseased mechanisms have been put to the side. And as you're feeling all of these things that would normally make you anxious, that would normally make you fearful, that would normally make you angry, that would normally make you hateful, that would normally make you cruel through that hate, that would normally make you violent through that fear, cruelty, and hate, you're pushing it to the side. You're pushing that disease off to the side, out of your frame of your imaginary mirror. Because the only way you can heal yourself is that your most healing time is when you're in dream time. And if you can push all of those hateful, angry, fearful things out of the way, because they don't exist, they're meaningless, they're illusions, all that anxiety, you put that to the side. And if you do it, the best way to do it is soon as you feel that anger, that fear, that anxiety come up, push it away. Don't let it get a hook. Don't let it get a place inside of you. Just push it away, you know? And if you can just look at the difference, when, my host, John, and myself, his friend, interact, and you watch the few times that I've allowed John to be on this channel, and the myriad of times that John has broken in with his camera and just pushed himself into his frame, where he tries to, monetize it on his channel. I allow that to happen because it's such a perfect picture of the two choices you have. You know, it is a perfect choice of showing you the canary in the coal mine, and the griot, the storyteller, your Sensei Al Bob, right? And the only reason that I've stuck with John for 2.5 years is to try and be there for him, because he's got nobody else, right? And again, I'm in the position of doctor, do no harm. Don't get involved unless I can bring forth a positive outcome and take the innocence out of harm's way and keep it safe, and to learn something. I have to say that I have done my best to do all three with John, right? Now, hey, I'm as human as the next guy. And like I said, I'm awake 80% of the time, and 20% of the time I'm, your basic meat puppet monkey boy, And there's a real difference between meat puppet and mud puppet, because meat puppet is the monkey boy, and our genetics, when the space kids showed up and picked up a monkey and turned it into a slave by turning him into Homo sapien sapien. There's this thing called Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network. That's cartoons for grown-ups, right? For adults, for people over 18. And, there's some racy stuff, but most of it is just, Rocky and Bullwinkle on steroids. And the one I love best, I don't even know the name of it, but it's this, half an hour little thing, almost of a pen and ink drawing of Spaceman, Homo sapien sapien, and Monkey Boy, right? And the Monkey Boy, they captured the smartest monkey boys around and then took their DNA and then genetically engineered Homo sapien sapien. And they still kept Monkey Boy around to give the newly born Homo sapien sapien that didn't have a freaking clue, dumber than a sack of rocks. And the space guy was not that far behind. Of the three of them, the Monkey Boy was the smartest. He was the cheeky monkey. He was always pulling gags, setting the two up to like walk off a cliff or set themselves on fire or blow themselves up. I mean, it was Roadrunner meets Rocky and Bullwinkle, Daffy Duck, and Bugs Bunny all rolled into one, and Tweety Bird. He don't know me too well, do he? And that's me, the monkey boy, you know? And that's what the meat puppet is. Meaning, in that 20%, in my most cheekiest points, which is about 15%, I am the monkey boy. About 5% when I'm my most unconscious, that's when I'm the meat puppet. Those strings are still there, but I'm still the monkey boy, right? And then 80%, I'm kind of awake, to my conscious free will of love's co creation. So that's me, and that's who you guys are, my adepts, my students, right? So, one, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. You have let your squirrel fall asleep in the cage. Your conscious mind is just totally focused on your breath, nothing else. Your whole avatar is on autopilot. You're in a safe place, a chair, a bed, on the floor, asleep, and you are illuminating your imaginary mirror where you have dream time. And when you can cleanse all of your conscious self of all the fear, anger, frustration, anxiety, all of those things, you put it to the side, you just move it out of the way. It's not important. You want a vision, you want a mnemonic to see. In your computer, you got the trash can. Put all that stuff. Open the lid. Put it in the trash can. Hit, hit the, you know, get rid of button. Is it all right to throw this away? Yes. Okay. Bing. That fear goes away. Are you all right to get rid of this hatred? Okay. Bing. Are you all right to get rid of this anxiety? Bing. All right to get rid of this neuroses? Bing. All right to get rid of this psychosis? Okay. Bing. You being all these things out of existence because they're illusions. They are not you. You're not made up of this corrosive disease. You are not a diseased conscious free will, you know? You are a conscious free will in love's co-creation. See this clearly. And by the creation of bringing in the prana into your blood and energizing it into a scalar frequency and taking that frequency to energize every cell of your body and seeing your mitochondria, you know, create that frequency that then makes photonic light. You illuminate your imaginary mirror where you dream, where you have REM sleep, behind your eyelids. You illuminate it. So it's no longer that dark, dank light, no longer that scary monster of a subconscious. No. You shine that bright photonic light into your subconscious mind, which is the library of your Akashic records. See that clearly. And two, you're walking through your imaginary mirror, just like I did when I was 9 at Madame Olga Kluver's Curiosity Shop with Grandpa Stahl. We walked right through the mirror into her parlor, right into the other side, into her scalar, photonic, lit, illuminated castle that was right there on Lexington Avenue, that had been there for all of time. And she was a, ascended master. I just saw the you know Star Wars movie by J.J. Abrams, the first one where he brings on Rey, right? And she gets into the Millennial Falcon and rides out there into space and bumps into Han Solo and Chewie, and then they go off to this nightclub on a little island where the little woman with big glasses were. Well, that's Madame Olga Kluver. You want to know what she looks like? That creature would live forever. Her nightclub's been here thousands of years, and that's when she was still in her mid age. That's if you want to know what Madame Olga Kluver looks like, that's her. And when Ray heard her voice down the corridor, that was the imaginary mirror. When she went in down those steps, you know? And when you go through the open doorway in your Akashic record into your sanctuary of your own choosing, your superconscious mind, those same steps are go over standing your id. That bridge is the bridge of your id. That's where the savage mind is. And you're overstanding it, not understanding it. That's why Ray got scared, because she was understanding. She wasn't overstanding. And two, you're walking into your Akashic library, totally illuminated by the photonic light. And you see it's not a dark, scary place for monsters, it's a library. And everywhere you see are these big leather books, and you look in front of you is the big fireplace of the eternal flame, that blue flame burning, right? And that's love's co-creation in the physical form, in the event horizon of the bubble of a Luciferian illusion of the material universe, right? And that's, love's co-creation is that eternal flame. That's what's causing the photonic light, what gives our ability to illuminate ourselves. And that's why that's why Lucifer, he's the great light bringer, because by this sacrifice that Lucifer is putting us all through within this event horizon of the illusion of the material universe, we are, it's, the gift of our conscious free will was given through love's co-creation. But our appreciation is what we do with it. And that's why we needed to step up to this crazy, chaotic illusion, and that's why we have as much time as it takes. It's taken up till now 16 billion years. Takes another 16 billion, not a problem. Takes 100 billion, not a problem. Takes a billion, not a problem. But we could go home in a snap of our fingers. And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally, 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 totally focused on your breath. The squirrel of your illusion, anxiety, fear-ridden, conscious, selfish, willful, angry, childish, cruel, Akashic record by the photonic light of the eternal flame of love's co-creation. See all this clearly. Do not forget any of that I've said so far. This is a truly groundbreaking guided meditation. And if you want to go to any one of these, of the almost 500 that I've done so far for you, this is the one to go to. And that's why I named it Know Thyself. Okay? If you want to tell I have this guy, he's my sensei. Oh, what's this? He's my teacher. What is he teaching? He's teaching me to know myself, to step up, to ascend to my conscious free will, to be awake, to not be diseased. Hey, if you want to know any of this, go to his channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob on YouTube, and go look up Know Thyself. It was done on March 20th, 2019. Okay? So tell a lot of people to come see this one. You know? And then start at the beginning. Go to May, whatever that was, 10th or 8th. I think May 8th was the first one I did. And those first, I've been watching them all, going back and looking at them, see if I needed to do anything different or better or what was good. And each of them, they are all as different. I don't repeat the story the same way twice. That's what a good griot does. You can tell the same story, can't tell it the same way, right? Because it's boring. And I am anything but boring. And 2, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. And right now, you are healing your body. I just snap my fingers. And the next time I snap my fingers, you will be back in your avatar awake. But right now, you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation. And your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. But your conscious free will, your awakened soul, is now standing in your library of your Akashic record. In front of you is the fireplace. In front of the fireplace is a bunch of nice lounge chairs for guests who come to visit. There is also, in front of that, your reading table, illuminated by the photonic light, which gives no shadows. So whatever you see on that table will be the 100% truth. There will be no shadows, no like, oh, I can't tell what it is. You'll see what it is. You may not understand it, but you'll know what it is. You'll see it. That's what it is. Your librarian, to your left, see your librarian clearly. Remember what your librarian looks like. Your librarian brings you your Akashic record, brings you the information. To the left of your Akashic, of your librarian, is your animal totem. What does your animal totem do? It brings you a story. Your animal totem is your griot of your Akashic record. So you may see things in your Akashic record. You can see them. That's what it is. You may not understand. Your animal totem will tell you a story that will describe, give you metaphors, give you understanding, and you will go, aha. And when you were in school and you took notes from your teacher, you were listening and writing, right? And you weren't writing it down to remember, you were writing it down to understand. So from now on, when you go to bed, you will go into state and cleanse yourself. You will evacuate, you will eliminate all of the toxins of your day, physical and emotional, psychic and spiritual. You will evacuate, then put them in your Akashic record. You close it. And then at your own leisure, you open it up and you look at it and you will understand it, right? And then you will tell yourself, I want to have a dream tonight in my imaginary mirror that is being illuminated by photonic light. So I will see the dream clearly without shadows, and I will remember it. And when I wake up, I will go into state and I will put my dream in the Akashic record. And I will also take my smartphone, hit record, and go, wow, I had this dream about blah, 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 blah. And your subconscious is wired to your mouth. As a shrink, I never gave a pad of paper to someone and say, "Oh, write down your dreams." I would go, "So what did you dream about? How did you feel about that?" And I would write it down. I was the expensive tape recorder, right? But you get it down on your smartphone, and then you go back and you listen to it. Now you got it on your Akashic record. You can read it and see it in, you know, Panavision as 70 millimeters on the screen, the big screen of your Akashic record, with the 28 little screens around it, giving you every angle there is about what's going on. Thus, you get, oh, look at that. That's why I did that. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten upset about that. That means, oh wow, what? Oh, I won't do that again. That's why we go through our life, not to be tortured, but to understand. That's why we have our Akashic record, to understand. And remember, everything goes down in that. You can see every life you ever had. Open up to a blank page. Run your fingers up and down the gold edgings of your Akashic record. It's like a mouse. And you'll go up and down all of your past lives. You go all the way back to the Big Bang and see what you blew out as. You can see what particle you were. You can see, as the millions of years as things cooled down and got hot, you see what you came out as a dust flake, or a grain of sand, or maybe you were a cell of a tree, or you can see all of it. And it's pretty good to know where you came from, really came from. And that's why I'm going through the long version here, because I want you guys to start using these tools. I mean, really using them. And I'm showing them, I'm not letting you to, you're seeing them, Even the people, we started out with about 10 people, and we're down to, how many are we down to? We're down to 4. And that's why you 4 are the shock troops of love's co-creation. The others, they couldn't, it was getting a little testy for them. Why is John the, canary in the coal mine, Every time I talk to him about things that get too close, he starts, he made a joke about somebody with Parkinson's, and you hand him a spear. What is he? He is Shakespeare, right? And that's what John is. He's Shakespeare, because he shakes and he says all these things that are zooming him through, all of the negativity and anxiety and fear and hate and all self-loathing, all that stuff. It comes out crystal, and that's the times that I've allowed him to put me on his channel, and vice versa. I allowed him to be on my channel. They were, again, the 3 rules. Doctor, do no harm, only get involved if you can have a positive outcome, and protect the innocent and get them out of harm's way, and only get involved if you're going to learn something. Every time I allow it to go on YouTube, it's doing those 3 things. And you go back and look at them. Why did all of you get so enamored with my stories of the old crone and Jimi Hendrix and, David Bowie? And when I did the ceremonies, the shamanic ceremonies, there were 3 or 4 shamanic ceremonies, the one in front of the cave, and a few others I did. Well, because John was there, and he would interrupt right at the most quintessential moment. He would tell a joke about shit or farts or some other seeming inappropriate thing, but it was right on time. I mean, the most synchronistic moment. He hit it like a tuning fork. And why did so many of you just get irate at John for doing that? Because he was showing you. And that's why I'm doing this, because every time I go on YouTube, either on John's channel or mine, I am doing a shamanic ceremony, right? And so when I did the first old crone story, or the story about Scar, or the boys from Brazil, or the aliens, the old, or I told about JFK's assassination. Now, I went into better, clearer detail on my channel, but, you know, all of those got over 70,000 people watching those stories. I put on 30 or so, maybe 40 stories on John's channel, and maybe, I think the old crone has close to 100,000, right? And most of mine have, you know, at best a few hundred. Now, John has been doing it since 2006. I've been doing it since last May, you know. So he's got, you know, people who are subscribers. I have what are, I call you, my cadre, you know. You are my adepts. Where he just has subscribers. People pop in, pop out. Oh, look at that. And they do have this little thing of how much time are in. Now, what's really interesting, the things that people watch for the longest amount of time are my stories. But when you look at how many people watch them and how many of those people watch them for a long period of time, that 90, 60, 70,000 people watch my stories, but only hundreds watch them all the way through. Only a few thousand watch them for more, and all of those stories took, 40 minutes to an hour and a half. And, a few thousand watch them for half an hour. Whereas I look at my watch time, so I have, maybe 30 something thousand views. More than half have watched all of it for the whole friggin' time. I have tremendous amount of watch time. And that's why YouTube is going, oh, you can monetize it. Just get some more, talk more about you. Do this when you're out, No, I'm looking for quality rather than quantity, I have a cadre, I have a chorus, and I have a shock troops of love's co-creation. And we're here to serve love's co-creation, to bring forth all of our relations out from this hinterland of the illusion of Luciferian materialism. Everyone's going to get on the bus, and this can happen like a pop of the bubble, That event horizon is like stronger than, the gravitational field of the sun, but it can be popped. When there's a supernova, it happens like in a nanosecond. Everything collapses, it blows apart. Bingo, you get a tremendous release of energy, which will bring all our relations back on the bus, back to love's co-creation, and we can be in harmony. We can be at ease. And that's where you are right now, sitting in your reading chair, at your reading table, with your Akashic record open to 2 blank pages. Put your left hand on the left page, right hand on the right page, and you lean into it and you evacuate all of the anger, all of the fear, all of the hatred, all the self-loathing, all the anxiety, all of those artificial emotions that, take up the 99.9999% of all emotional experience of the avatar, of the mud puppet. Because the only true thing that is real is love's co-creation. See that clearly. See that clearly now. Let that sink into your heart. And your heart of your avatar, your heart is the only, that's where your soul, within the illusion of the facility of the Luciferian illusion of materialism, the only truth CPU, central processing unit of love's co-creation, is your heart. That's where your faith is. That's where you step up through empathy, through sympathy, through living by example of love's co-creation in every day and every way to bring the peace to all our relations, all creation of love's co-creation. And we make it stronger. See it clearly. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And in every day and in every way let us take the peace of the earth through love's co-creation. And in that co-creation, we bring into our lungs the prana of Father Sky. And we ground through our chi into Mother Earth and to Gaia. And we make that connection that creates through cells as they go through mitosis, a photonic light that illuminates our soul and our Akashic record. And all of that illusionary, luminous grayness, that soapy, translucent illusion of reality, all of that fear, anger, hatred, self-loathing, anxiety, we close the book on that. And now we feel light. We feel heavenly. We feel better. We feel totally at ease. Every cell of our conscious avatar is harmonizing with a scalar energy that's energizing all the mitosis, all of the energetics of our cell. All our mitochondria is in balance with love's co-creation. From our Father Sky to our Mother Earth, we are connected in that big circuit. See it clearly. We are sending to our conscious, awake free will of our soul's loves in co-creation. See it clearly. And we are moving towards the open door that we are walking to our right. And the other 9 doors are towards the fireplace. The open door to our superconscious mind, our sanctuary of our own choosing, is always open to us, because that is our doorway to knowing ourself. And we put our hand on the railing and our feet going up the steps, and we're going over the bridge. We are overstanding, looking out over our sanctuary of our own choosing. There's the meadow. And there is the gazebo, the stage, that we can find out any question we want, see anything we want to see. And by going to our meadow, where our picnic blanket and basket are, that is the place we go to truly be satiated in ease. If we want to relax, if we want to let go of whatever residual anxiety we may even think we're feeling, just sit down, lie down on our picnic blanket and let your essence seep through the blanket into the earth of the firma, where we connect to every cell, every fungi, every essence of Gaia. And when we do that, we heal Gaia. And you hear people, oh, we gotta watch out for the carbon footprint. I mean, we gotta heal our planet. Well, the only way you can heal your planet is to lie down on that picnic blanket and connect with Gaia. You know, human beings are like salt on a potato chip. They're kind of tasty, a little interesting, but really, when the thing that has the most value is the pathetic carbohydrates of the potato chip, and we're only the salt on the potato chip. That puts things in perspective. So we walk off our bridge after overstanding it, our our sanctuary of our own choosing. We walk over the meadow, we lie down our picnic blanket, we let the sun hit us. We feel that firmament of that photosynthesis of, the photonic light going into every cell. It's like being baked in the oven of love's co-creation. See it clearly. You're not some Nabisco wafer, in the child's bake oven. No, sorry. You are the creation of love's creation. See it clearly. Feel that warmth of that love, that unconditional love. You've done nothing wrong. Feel your heart open to the place where you're letting go of every fear. You feel so good. You are crying unconditionally, weeping with joy, not with fear, not with anxiety, but with joy. You are hearing the sound of the spheres, the music of the spheres, not the screams of terror. And when you are in this state of ease, nothing can hurt you. It's like when I was in that movie theater looking straight up at that of the monster from the Id and Forbidden Planet and seeing it as scratches on a 70 millimeter frame of the movie and realize that's fear. That right there, that's a joke. Then I visualized myself putting red sneakers on the monster and tying the shoelaces together and then kicking him in the shins and jumping over the tied shoelaces and running away. And the monster turned to chase me to get me. And he didn't realize he had the red sneakers on and that the shoelaces were tied together. And he fell down and couldn't get back up. Just like the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk. He trips and wah! And that's the last anyone saw of the giant. That will be the last that you will ever see of fear, when you can see it clearly. And so, you're floating like a balloon, and you're floating up from your um, picnic blanket on the meadow, and you feel amazing. You feel so happy. You feel the joy of love's co-creation in your heart. You have realized and seen what fear and hate and anger and all of those illusions are. Nothing. And so you head off towards the carnival. And you walk in, there's a big tent, but outside there's the, carnival way. And there's the fun house and the scare house and the fear house and the games of chance. And in the big top, there are all the great shows of knowledge and understanding and happiness and art and theater and poetry. And you walk through it all. And in the fun house, you get the realization that the thing you should laugh at is yourself. And you never make fun of somebody else. You never make fun at the, you never make the joke at someone else's expense. Like the joke about the guy with Parkinson and you give him a spear. Well, that guy is you. You're the one whose hand is shaking, and you get the spear in your hand and it's shaking, and you are Shakespeare. And in the funhouse, you see that. And in the games of chin and the ones you can't. And the ones you want to win, go win them. The ones you don't want to lose at, well, don't play the game. And that's knowing you're 360. When you're awake, you can sense everything 360 degrees. You see me every time I'm in a chair that can swivel around. What do? Wee, wee. I swivel around, right? That's giving you the metaphor of knowing you're 360. So nothing can sneak up on you. And what am I doing? I'm squealing like a pig. I'm having so much fun because nothing can scare me because I can see 360 all around and everything's illuminated with photonic light. There are no shadows. And so we go into the scary fear house, right? Now, this is the house of illusion, right? This is the house of shadows. And we are at the doorway. We are looking in, and there's a long mirrored hallway. Meaning there's mirrors on either side. You're walking on mirrors. There's mirrors on the ceiling, and there's a mirror in front of you, and there's a mirror. So every which way you see infinity of what you're looking at. And you'll see infinity, and each of those copies of infinity, there's a line. That's the break in the mirror. And that's where the shadows can come out from. And so, too, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. You're illuminating yourself with the prana, turning it in through the energetics of your blood, turning into scalar frequencies that are harmonizing your cells and your mitochondria into photonic light. You're propagating photonic light, which is the light of truth and understanding that shows when you shine that light on it, there are no shadows. So in the horror house, the only point of projection of photonic light is your heart. So whatever direction you are projecting that photonic light 360 because your heart is in the deeps of your chest, but there is no front, back, side, up, down. It's your heart. It's shining out that photonic light 360. It's shining out that empathetic love of co-creation 360. It is shining out that unconditional forgiveness of love's co-creation 360. So you're standing at the doorway of the horror house, and your light shines in, and it goes every time it hits a new mirror that creates the reflection that just keeps going on into infinity. It breaks the mirror. It breaks the mirror. It breaks the mirror. It breaks the mirror, breaks the mirror, breaks the mirror, breaks the mirror. So all of those shadows that were on the edge of your peripheral vision get broken. So none of the fear, none of the anger, none of the self doubt, self loathing, anxiety, and hatred get manifested. And you see all the way down to the end of the horror house, and that last mirror breaks, and everything collapses back into nothingness. It never was there. And you walk past the back of the horror house and you walk up this path. And that's in the circle of the event horizon, that curvy S path of life. You walk up that path, now illuminated and being awake in the conscious awareness of your free will, not your selfish self will that you just blew apart in the horror house. See that clearly. Remember that clearly. See that metaphor. And you're walking up the path of life, and you come to our house, you know, the Oracle of Delphi. That is our house. And it's manifested in the physical representation of Falling Water House. That's in Pennsylvania. That was designed and built by Frank Lloyd Wright. See it clearly. And you walk up to the two front doors, and over it in big, gleaming, photonic light floating in the sky above the door, it says, "Those who pass through this door will know thyself." And the doors open, and we walk into the grand hallway. And on the right-hand side are all the 9 doors to all those lands. And on the left-hand side, there's the big doorway that goes into the coat room, where we can store anything we need to store. Any coat, any package, any umbrella, anything we need, right? Is in our coat room. And at the back of the coat room is the doorway into the old crone's coat room that leads into her farmhouse. See it clearly. And then the hallway goes into the common room, and to the left is the doorways to all our lodges, our individual lodges. And to the right is the dining hall of the common room, and at the end of the common room is the doorway into the hedgerow longhouse where we were last night. But today, to experience what we are going to experience, we are going to go through the coat room and then through the back of the coat room into the old crone's courtroom, and then walk out of her coat room into her farmhouse where she is waiting for us in her sitting room. And we all go in and we sit down at our very comfortable lounge chairs that has our individual names there. There are enough lounge chairs for all of the shock troops of love's co-creation. For all that go into state and take their journey, they are the shock troops, you know. And all of the cadre can be a shock troop, but they first have to be a cadre, and they have to be, and that what the cadre does is take forth of the show. They may not be part of the chorus that night, may have to be doing something else, but they go back and watch the show. And that's why they're the cadre. They may have a favorite show they watch. They may be working through almost 500 of the shows. See that clearly. That's what makes you the cadre. Subscribing, you viewers, you should join the club. You should be adepts. You're the cadre. You're viewing, you're the cadre. But if you subscribe and become the cadre adepts, that means you got some skin in the game. And when you come to live chat and you become part of the chorus, that means you have a voice. And when you go into state, that means you are a shock troop of love's co-creation. That means you are actually a doctor doing no harm. Getting involved when you can have a positive outcome. There you protect the innocent and get them out of harm's way. And that you learn something. Going to state does those three things. And when you do that, in every day and every way, taking the peace of the earth and making it stronger, that's when you are ascending. You are going from being a mud puppet up through your lower chakras to your higher chakras. Now we're in the Aquarian age. The energetics are, you are becoming a harmonic, energetic soul. And that's how you're going to communicate with all these creatures that we're about to go out. After we have our tea and we take forth, made for us to share, ambrosia, we will go out into the backyard. Now the backyard, you have to visualize this. This is where you play croquet. This is where you sit in a nice lounge chair under a tree and read poetry or write poetry or play a musical instrument or listen to the phonograph of really good music. Now, good music isn't defined by the style or the age when it came from. It comes from the harmonic. It can be classical. It can folk, rock and roll, jazz, rhythm and blues, whatever. But when it is created with the harmonic of the spheres of the universe, that's good music. And that's what we hear on the phonograph when we're in the backyard, where you play badminton, These are all, and bocce, You don't play football. You might kick around a soccer ball, but you don't do anything that brings aggression forth. Now, you can strive, playing badminton, because you're not really playing it against the other guy. You're playing it with the birdie. The real game is to hit that birdie over that net, not to get the other guy to not hit it. That's for losers who play it that way. No, it's just you're playing against the birdie. You have the other guy on the other side to hit it back to you. That's the only reason the other guy on the other side net's there is to hit it back to you, right? When you are playing croquet or bocce, it's the skill of the way you let that ball go out of your hand or the way you hit it with a mallet and it goes through the hoop. It may knock the other guy's or gal's ball asunder, But your thing isn't to hit them out of the way, it's for you to navigate that ball through the hoop to get to the wicket on the other side. That's it. And your opponent is not so much as your opponent, but just a form. It's just like having a wicket there, or a hoop. It's just another obstacle to navigate around, to test your skill. And that is what the backyard is for, the place to test your skill. The other thing you do on the backyard is the other two things you do, or three things, maybe four. One is to do Tai Chi, Qigong, go through your katas, to meditate, to do yoga, to lie on your back and look at clouds during the day and look at stars at night. And when you focus on clouds and you meditate and you either bust them or create them or turn them into bunnies or dogs or trees or whatever you visualize, you're talking to other species, other creatures, other entities of dimensions, of other planets, of other galaxies. They represent in the sky. They represent the stars. And they come forth as metaphors that people call UFOs. They don't need those devices to get here. They, some, not all, some need them to make contact with us. Others can just walk right up to us, you know? Come from the other side of the veil and just bingo, be right there and walk to us. And sometimes you need this neutral ground of a device, a hallway, a building, a den, a nest, whatever you want. And so we're all getting up and we're all going out to the backyard of the old crone's backyard. And there are trees and bushes and smells and beauty and flowers and great mowed grass. And there's the, croquet field over there and the bocce field over there and the badminton field over there and trees over there with tables and chairs and there's a fire pit and there's a sweat lodge and there's all these things we can share and have fun and enjoy our company and presence with each other and co-create love. And as we walk out, we can spend some moment having a little bit of fun, doing whatever we want. So go forth and have a little bit of fun with love's co-creation. And I'm going to be quiet and allow you to experience. And three, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of conscious relaxation. The little squirrel is totally asleep. That mind, that's the mind of the illusion, is totally of not relevant. And you are on The backyard of the old crone's garden of her farmhouse on her farm. And it is the most bucolic, beautiful place you've ever seen. It is a place that totally puts you at ease, totally puts you at relax. You've had all the fun. You've played with all of your cadre. You've played checkers. You've played badminton, croquet, bocce. You swam in the pool. You've sat under the tree and read each other poetry and played music to each other and listened to the phonograph and heard each other tell each other stories as the griot. And now you have exercised. You've done your yoga. You've done your tai chi to step and sweep. You've done your qigong and brought the energy of the prana into every cell of your body through visualization of the spheres. You've gone through your martial art katas. You have stretched your muscles through yoga. And now you're sitting on the grass, the firma. And you are becoming part of Gaia. And you're going into the harmonic realms. And light is turning into a mystical clarity of the spheres. And things are going from that very familiar garden to this exotic, energetic, of multiple-dimensional, emotional aspect, emotional references of things that go beyond your five senses, go beyond the limitations of your avatar, go beyond the limitations of your illusion of your avatar, even though you know you're awake and you're your conscious free will. You go way past that. That means you're moving in a non-linear way through time and space. You're going from the Big Bang to the Big End. And you're in everywhere in between at the same time. You are being able to travel galactically from one end of the universe to the other in less than a moment. You just have to visualize it and you're there. You don't even know what you're visualizing, but you're there. Then you have a reference point, and now you know what to visualize. See all this clearly. This is how you remote view all of existence. Going into your Akashic record and moving the mouse of the golden thread is one thing, but this, you are being there totally. Not seeing on the screen in front of you, but being it. And in that, you are seeing all the connections of your moment here in present day Earth, March 20th, 2019, something or other, Eastern Standard Time, USA, no matter where you are on the Earth, or no matter what other planet, galaxy, species you are, because you're part of the cadre. You're part of all our relations. You got to get on the bus and go back home to love's co-creation, not just the bunnies and grasshoppers and your friends and your sisters and brothers and the cadre. No, everybody. That's all our relations, not just the skinned and the cold-blooded and warm-blooded and scaled and feathered. No, everybody. Even the creatures that are made out of rocks, even the creatures, everybody. All of love's co-creation is all our relations. And so that's why when you see extraterrestrials, extra-dimensionals, if you connect to them on love's co-creation level, what does that mean? That means you don't have an ounce of fear in your body. Here's a little griot story for you. I used to have a amazing woman in my life. Her name was Stephanie S. And she was, everything she did was great. She was a Ford model. She was a amazing artist, that showed at, the, major galleries in New York, was part of the Whitney Annual. Um, she was part of, she went to, she was a great actor. She had been in TV shows and movies. I mean, everything she did was amazing. And she was an anthropologist, and she was a, physicist, and she was my lover and twin flame. And came from a billionaire family. Her father was a Swiss banker, part of, the Bilderberg crew. And she was a wild child, and she loved to do everything. And she loved me. For all of my foibles and all of my inconsistencies, she loved me. And she wanted to marry me and have children with me. And she was a little bit older, not, I was probably 30 something, 32, 33. She might have been 34 or 35. And we met at a party. We seemed to strike it off. I walked her home, and it was a hotel because she was there for a photo shoot because she lived somewhere else. And, she invited me in for coffee. And I never left her side for a year and a half. And she made my career in art a lot better because she was, well, I mean, I was connected. You know, I held a kind of special position in the New York art world as the mystic electrician, you know, shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemist kind of guy. And I made art, and I had an art gallery, and I did a lot of stuff. And so did she. And she was also an Aquarian. And probably the person, or one of the people, who knew me and connected to me like no other. I have lots of friends. I have lots of close friends. And there was a thing called, well, before then, we moved to a thing called Westbeth, which was a phone building on off of Canal Street near Chelsea. That was a building the city took over, and because the artists made Soho into this groovy thing, all the really in artists, this was a gigantic building. I think it was about 70,000 square feet. It had enough room to give like 300 artists their own loft, right? And they said, okay, we're going to give all these groovy people a loft, and they can be in there, and they can make art, and there'll be theater there, and galleries there, and places where they can teach kids. And it was a great place. And I hope it's still in existence. Anyway, she was more, meaning I never registered anything, if, I was always doing stuff and part of everything. But when people wanted me to be like more than what I was, like part of a club or the inside this or the blah, blah, that, I kind of shied away from that. I somehow thought that would, like like Groucho Marx said, he never wanted to join a club that wanted him in it. Anyway, but she got one of those lofts, and so it was her loft, so it could be our loft. But before then, I had a really rat ass apartment on Second Avenue, and so when she left her hotel room, she moved into my, apartment. So, gang, you're still there. Look at that. Guess what time it is? 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds. So, am I here? Can one of the four of you say yes? You're here. You know, and it was right at the quintessential moment of the story about me and Stephanie S. So, guys, am I back? Am I connected? Or am I just talking to myself? Well, I'll finish this story and just hope that you're there. Let's see. I'll hit this button. Am I here? Am I back? Well, I'll just keep going. I'll just go on love's co-creation. So there, Stephanie S. moved into my. I mean, I'm talking about a really rat ass, low life, you know, skank kind of apartment. It cost me all of like $18 a week. And it was going contemplating care. I mean, it was all over the place. I just needed one. I had many bases of operation. This was like the one quiet, no one knew I was there kind of place. And so that could be our place. I had a studio, I had a shop, I had a gallery, I had a whole bunch of things. But this was kind of my place, my secret hideaway. Yeah, but it was pretty skanky. But it was, my apartment was relatively comfortable. Had a great view of the park, of the one that was. It was a little park, anyway. So, but it was like all the junkies. That's where everybody brought the stolen gear, sold it on the street. It was really. I mean, in my apartment, people broke into it so much. I never had a lock that I locked people out. I may lock myself in. I had what is known as a fox lock. It's this bar that holds the door. The police couldn't get in. Anyway, but when I left, I kind of kept it unlocked because I had nothing there that was worth, if they wanted to steal it, good. And I spray painted everything Dayglow orange. So when I went to Second Avenue and I saw my TV, my chair, my bedroll, I would give the junkie $10 to bring it back to my apartment. Not to buy it, but to bring it back. And they would. I said, hey, that's my orange thing. That's my orange thing. So bring it back. I'll give you $10. And they would. And after a while, they stopped stealing my crap. Only the stupid ones would steal it. And then I'd give them $5. But anyway, Stephanie moved in, right? And she's this goddess. I mean, one day when I go through my photos again and show them, I'll show you a picture of Stephanie. She was a Ford model. She was a Sports Illustrated, bathing suit model. She was a Playboy model, and she got paid the top notch. Meaning and she was a wild child. She was not ashamed of her body or any of her body's functions. And she was a rocket scientist, an amazing artist, amazing musician. She played the violin. She went to Juilliard and played in the Lincoln Center Orchestra. She had a union card to do it. She had so many union cards. The one union card she didn't have was IBEW, right? Anyway, so there we are. And it's summertime and it's really hot. And Yeah, we're both naked in bed. We just have this nice. She brought her nice. She bought some nice silk. She definitely made an improvement in my apartment. She got rid of the orange Dago stuff, and everyone in the neighborhood knew it. Steph, hey, she was sweet to everybody. She never looked down on anybody. Right. Anyway, so it's really hot one night, and it's like, and I don't have the gate over the window, so we can have the window open and get some breeze in. And I have the fan in front of it, and we're both asleep, and we're both naked, and we're both naked on the silk sheet. We kicked the top one off, and basically we're both asleep. We're both in each other's arms, and we're both. I mean, in a year and a half that we were together, if our bodies were within 5 feet each other, we were in arousal. And she did this a meditative, sexual meditative thing where she would get into the most heightened state of sexual arousement and not do anything, not put anything in any part of her body, not touch me, not, do it. And over hours, we would slowly touch each other and just get more and more. We were like, by the time we were doing anything, we were glowing white hot. So even when we slept, everything was turgid. And so there I am, and we're both asleep in each other's arms, and we were always in each other's dreams. We were always having the most amazing experiences in dream time. And this is what you guys can do. Anyway, right now you're in state. Right now you're in this room. Right now you're like a fly on the wall watching us be in turgid excitation in our dream state. And it's hot. And you on the fly on the wall are sweating. It's so hot. Not just from the heat of the summer, but the heat, in that bed. And then all of a sudden you hear a crashing sound and then a thwapping sound. And that's when I wake up. You know, I like wake up like that. And you see me wake up like that. And I turn my head, and what's coming through the window but a monster with a big machete, sharpened to the point where the neon light outside of the window is flashing, and the sharpened edge of the machete is reflecting the neon light. That's how sharp it is. And I look at him, and he looks non-human. He looks like a troll, and he looks like he's going to kill, rape, and cut us up into pieces. And I'm going, uh-oh. And I am totally naked. I have no weapon whatsoever. The house is full of beautiful scents. And, the most deadly thing I have is a candle, you know. And this guy's got a, 4-foot machete sharpened like a razor blade. And he doesn't even look human. And he is looking at my naked twin flame. And she is still asleep angelically in dream time, in that state where we were one in love. And I'm still in bed, and I'm not really moving, but I'm moving enough my head to get a bead and look around the room, and what can I do to protect us? And this guy is slowly creeping and looking at us, and I can feel the animal fear, anger, loathing, want, kill, rape, sex, control, all of the negative entities of the universe are being channeled through this one poor creature to the point where he's not even human anymore. He's not even a troll. He is this most horrific monster of a monster, right? and I'm not even out of bed. But before I'm okay. There's a chair. I could do this. I could do that. And the fox lock, meaning to get out that door. I either go out the window by him where he could like slop off my head, or I have to go out the door. But I have to unlock the fox lock, take the bar off, do this, do that. It takes about 3 minutes to get out that door. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, I feel this hand on my chest. You know, it's my love. And she kind of pushes me back into bed, and she gets up herself. She's totally naked, totally vulnerable. A the most sexual thing you've ever seen in Playboy or on a Sports Illustrated cover, because that's what she was, at least on her external, what people saw her as was this sex goddess of beauty. And then when she would play the violin or expound an equation on the blackboard at Columbia, or any of those things we used to do together, or talk about theology at the Theosophical Society. Everyone at Theosophical loved this. She was an angel. She was an angel. She puts her hand on my chest and like keeps me in bed, and she gets up and stands in front of this guy and walks over to him. And she goes, "There's no reason to be afraid. There's only love in this room, and this love is all for you." Moment, right at the most, oh my God, what happened? What happened? What happened to Stephanie S? What happened to Sunset Al Bob? Is still counting. There's me in bed. She's standing, going, "There's nothing to fear. Feel the love around you. It's okay." Then he starts to cry like a baby. He's holding this machete in his hand, and she caresses him. She's totally naked, and he's in this filthy T-shirt and just crapped out pants. That's all torn up, and he's just wearing these no socks, just just this guy is totally a mess. And she's caressing him, saying, "It's all right, it's all right." It's weeping in her arms. And then he shakes like a dog, and she kind of steps back. And he pushes her away, not in a violent way, but pushes her away. He goes, "No, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that." And he walks over. He places the machete on the table, and he walks over to the front door, and he opens it. And there's also a latch, right? He opens the fox thing, and he hits the latch. So when he closes the door, it's going to lock behind him. And before he goes out of the door, he goes, he's talking to somebody else the whole time. He's, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that." And he gets to the door, and he goes, "Thank you for the love. I'm going to try and keep it with me. I am going to push the voices out of my head. I am going to go to a hospital now and see if they can help me. And thank you for the love. If, I would want you to close the gate on your window and lock it, and lock this door. And you need to leave this neighborhood. Don't live here." And he did. He closed the door, the latch latched, and got up, rolled the thing, locked it, Uh, we kind of put our robes on and sat down and said, "Whoa." And then we sat there and meditated with each other and went into state and looked at what was, and that creature was sent to kill us, right? From the most evilness there is, love of her angelness broke through that, broke through the most hideous, disgusting, terrible thing that could ever be, and it healed him. That love healed him. And so we went back to the world of Astoria because she had money. Like I said, her father was a billionaire. Money was not even, but she didn't say, "Oh, we can't live in this neighborhood. Oh, I'm scared." Oh, no. She spent a good month there with me and loved everything. She loved all those people. And she was like the pebble in the pot. She was making a difference in that whole neighborhood. So the evil that was there couldn't stand it. So it sent this monster to kill us. And her love, right? So we go there, and a couple of days later, she goes, "Oh, I found us another place to live." And I said, "Really? Where?" "Westbeth." I said, "Really?" That the thing's got like, 10-year waiting list. No one gets in that place. And she goes, "Well, I did." And I said, "Okay, let's go take it." And it was a beautiful loft. Again, I'll show you some pictures of it. It was like on the 10th floor. We had this view over up the Hudson. We had the view up 7th Avenue, and to, Broadway. Like an amazing, I guess it was facing north. And it had we were one of the only places that actually had a balcony, I mean, it was a great law. It was amazing. It was one of the best spaces in the whole thing. It was pretty big, 2,500 square feet. And there was a theater in it. There was a library. There was every kind of studio you could have. My friend Mike got the basement. There's like 11,000, and he found 8 million gallons of red paint, red paint, and we spray painted it Gary Blue, spray painted it red, and was our nightclub. Before Elaine's was Elaine's, this place was Elaine's. Anyway, so Stephanie and I lived there about a year, and her father came to visit us, and because I was the most stable relation she ever had. She never had a boyfriend for more than a month or two. Anyway, so he comes to visit, and he's staying at the Waldorf, and like I said, he's a billionaire. Anyway, he hangs out with us. He sees stuff, and he's so one day, we go to dinner. We go to dinner. He stays there a week. He has business. He does this, that, and one night he says, "Al, why don't we have lunch together? I'm going to have a meeting at this place, and why don't you come?" And that place was the Council on Foreign Relations. So and they have a really, really nice dining room for those kind of people. Anyway, so I go, "Sure," because I know that place because one of my mentors, Billy Kluver, who got the Nobel Prize for discovering background radiation, who also curated the Armory show in the 20s and brought modern European art to America. That was one of my mentors, who was also, his name was Billy Kluver and Madame Olga Kluver, but they weren't even related. But they were both Kluvers. They were that kind of person. They were a Kluver person. And that meant they were a little different. They came from a different time zone, right? But they walked around in our material world. And, again, go see that Star Wars movie where San Holo dies, that one, where Rey gets introduced and she finds her lightsaber, and that's in the nightclub of Zaz or whatever that lady. Well, that's exactly what Madame Olga Clover looked like. Anyway, so we, go have lunch there, and I meet all these guys, and I'm like, in a pair of jeans and just a T-shirt, that says "I love New York" or something. Yeah, happy equinox. Anyway, it's the first day of spring, right, gang? All right. So anyway, we have this pretty amazing lunch where I meet a number of people I've already met, and they kind of know me because I've been hanging out. My parents lived across the street from this place, and they used to have a thing called Automation House. And again, don't believe anything I say. Go check out the Council on Foreign Relations. Go check out Automation House. That was during the 60s. Go check it out, you know. Go check out Billy Kluver. See if you can even find him. Go look at the guy who discovered background radiation and, the bringing modern art to America. They may mention him, but he was a guy. I mean, again, he was my mentor, so I kind of followed in his footsteps. I mean, he was instrumental in amazing things, and everyone who was well known, Albert Einstein knew this guy, and his good friend George Christie. Go look up him. He was the guy who brought us Intelsat. You know. Anyway, so I'm at lunch with all these, amazing luminaries because they're all luminaries. Half of them, like I said, are from different time zones, and my next story that I tell you about meeting, you know, the Nordics. A lot of these guys started the Council on Foreign Relations. Anyway, so I'm having lunch with all these guys, and one of these guys is Stephanie's dad. And we're having a really nice time. And he's saying, they're all kind of telling stories about me, because they've either heard them or knew me, saw me do stuff, and they're all chuckling. Yeah, I did that kind of stuff when I was young too. And I am not the brunt of the joke. I'm like kind of laughing at myself, and the fact that I can laugh at myself is that I'm being endeared upon. I'm like the cuddly little cub, the that little animal you have as a pet. Anyway, but this guy, Stephanie's dad, he's thinking more about son-in-law. So anyway, we have this pretty amazing lunch where we talk about pretty amazing things, and I'm being given the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You're one of us, kid. Keep it up. Anyway, so we walk from 69th Street and Park Avenue, where the Council on Foreign Relations is, back to the Waldorf Astoria. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a late, early spring, no, fall day. We're already living in West Beth. And no, it might even been in spring. It was like getting on towards Stephanie and I being together for a year almost. Anyway, we're walking back, and he is really talking about. I mean, he is not beating around the bush. He goes, you're you're not just an amazing guy for all this crazy stuff that you do. You're an amazing guy is because my daughter loves you. And now she's had tons of boyfriends. She's had tons of affairs. And I'm European, I'm from, Switzerland, so have I. She's like, if I had a son, I'd be proud that she was it, but she's my daughter. So I want her to be happy. And you're the only guy I've ever seen you make her happy. That's what you do. All this other stuff is secondary. Your primary goal, you make her happy. And he blows it by telling me, I want you to marry her. And if you marry her, if you propose to her while I am here, I will give you $1 million before I leave. Put in the bank. You never have to worry about money. You'll have the freedom of conscience of not having to worry about money. Yes, she's got all the money in the world, but you don't want to be tied to her money. I'll give you $1 million, And for every year, I'll give you another $1 million. He didn't say that, but he kind of, you don't worry about money. It'll be your money. And I was stupid. I should have said, okay. I should have like jumped in his arms and said, kissed him on the cheek and said, I'm your boy. Because I did love her. And the primary thing in my life at that time was to make her happy. And my ego got the better part of me. How could this guy, what's he going to buy me? And that spoiled it. And within 2 months, we went our separate ways. And we still stayed best of friends. We never broke up, but she kind of realized what it was. And she had, when we were together for that year, we were artists. We were doing all these projects. We were making things happen in the art world, in the culture world, in the political world, in the environmental world. We were doing all the, she was no longer modeling. She was no longer in films. She was no longer, she played at the symphony once in a while because she liked doing that, but she wasn't working. But about a month and a half after her father left, she goes, I got a gig in Europe and I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks. And she did. And I stayed there and I stayed there. And she came back a couple of times, but we, you know, we became more friends than twin flames. The fire had gone out. And I could tell that you know, she was a very physical, sexual person. And, those few weeks that she was gone, she definitely, enamored had some sparks with some other guys. Not me, because, there was nothing close to her that would even. So I busied myself with all the stuff I was involved with. And I had this really beautiful place, and, the rent was paid. I never had to worry about bills. We had a joint kind of checking account, but not checking, but, credit card. And she said, "Oh, use that as much as you want." And by the fifth month, a friend of hers moved into our loft. Well, we shared it. And it was a guy. It was one of the guys she had sparked with, right? And the fact that I wasn't, she wanted me to marry her. And like I said, I was a chump. I should have jumped into her daddy's arms, took the check, and again, I'd be a different guy. I'd be part of the Council on Foreign Relations. I'd be planning the Great Escape, and I'd be part of the secret space, blah blah blah. But I didn't. You know, and a number of the people in that lunch at the CFR were not born on this planet. And from that point on, I had seen lots of craft. I had seen lots of technology. When I was, in the early 70s, when I was in Los Alamos and San Diego, Kirkland Air Force Base, and Dulce, I saw a lot of stuff, right? But again, I wasn't read in. I was just an electrician. Yes, I had great talent in creating power sources, but I wasn't, and they gave me plenty of opportunity. They offered, oh, we have this project, we love, but it takes a certain clearance, and you need to, da 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 da. Now they knew my background, my pedigree. They knew all the people who had been in my life. So getting a clearance was just a matter of me saying yes and being written in. And again, I would be like Corey Good or somebody like that, But I wasn't, you know. Anyway, so you now have been read in. All you have to do is go out on the backyard lawn, hang out by the croquet field, lie back on the ground, and look up at those clouds and turn them into puppy dogs. And they will then turn into craft that will then come down and visit you if you want them to. And they'll be very nice because they will say, "Oh, You're one of Al's cadre. You're one of his adepts. No problem. And when you see something scary, if you can bring the love that Stephanie had in her heart, you will never be harmed. If you let one little atom of fear into your consciousness, you will be eaten like you know, a little morsel. So, there's your choice. Have that kind of love in your heart, or and have no fear, or have fear in your heart and be somebody's chew toy. That's your choice. Okay? Okay, what? Oh, look at that! 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Now, before we are gobbled up by, you know, some creature who's going to try and knock us off the internet again, I will say goodnight, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. I hope you liked this one. Did you like this one? Yep. Okay, research. I'll talk to you later in the week. Everybody else want to get a hold of me, the dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? And go read my stuff. You know, got to read it a few times to really break through the code at xratted.blogspot.com. I love you guys. 3 hours and 30 seconds. Okay, good night.